मेरा शॉट जो कितना बढ़िया बढ़िया
Good evening and welcome. We're here today to celebrate the launch of an iconic memoir by a legendary figure. In the world of cricket in the 1970s and 80s, Mohinder Amarnath started his career as a batsman who was found suspect against short pitch fast bowling and finished it as one of the finest and bravest players of pace. He is still remembered with awe for hooking fearsome pace attacks on bouncy Caribbean and Australian tracks without wearing a helmet. Grits, gumption, and guts defined Amarnath's roller coaster career. According to both Sunil, Gavaskar, and Imran Khan, Amarnath was one of the best batsmen of their era. But strangely, he kept getting dropped from the Indian team and subsequently became famous for his comebacks, earning him the very famous moniker, the Comeback King. He was a player who did not flinch in the face of fire, a fearless cricketer and a man who just wouldn't be defeated or denied. His frank, forthright, and anecdotal memoir, written with his brother Rajender Amarnath, gives readers a keen insight into his personality and a glimpse into a bygone, glorious era of cricket. For any lover of the game, Fearless is a must-read. Mohinder ji is the son of legendary cricketer Lala Amarnath. He played for the Indian national team from 1969 to 89, scoring 4,378 test runs. 9 of his 11 test centuries were scored overseas. He was the man of the match in the semi-final and the final when India won the World Cup in 1983. He was named one of the Wisden Cricketers of the Year in 1984 and received the Arjuna Award the same year. Rajender Amarnath, the co-author of the book, is the youngest son of Lala Amarnath. A graduate from St. Stephen's College, he played first-class cricket in India and professional cricket in England. Later, he was a selector and coach for the Haryana state team. He is an author, commentator, and a cricketer analyst. Please join me in welcoming Minister of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar, to the stage, please, along with Mr. and Mrs. Mohinder Amarnath, Mr. and Mrs. Rajender Amarnath, to officially unveil the book for us. Yes, please. Jimmy ji has a little memento for Dr. Jaishankar, if I may invite them on stage, please. may I please now request Dr. S. Jaishankar, the Honorable External Affairs Minister, to please address the audience.
About a month ago, Mohinder Amarnath contacted me to ask me if I would consent to join the book release of his memoirs. I'm not entirely sure why. But obviously, I agreed immediately. And I must tell you why. One, of course, I say this at the risk of embarrassing him, but he was really the legend of our times. He was not just a legend of our times, but honestly, I couldn't have imagined that one day I'd be sharing a stage with him. And you have to understand this, okay? He started his Test debut in 1969. I was in school at that time. And in fact, the team that he played against, I happened to see the match in Delhi, which we happened to win at that time. But from 69, again, when any of us think about Indian cricket, I think nobody has any doubt that 1983 was the inflection point. And he was not just the inflection point, but he was the man of the match of the inflection point. Now, there are some younger people in the room who may not really understand how big 83 was. Okay, so recently I was at the Hindustan Times 100th anniversary celebration. And they had, in 100 years, some big, the big moments of India. So I took this picture of the big moment of India. Some of you are sitting far. It says the cup is ours. There is Kapil Dev, your picture, understandably. There's Mohinder Amarnath, and there is Madan Lal. Now, this was how big it was. And, countries have won the World Cup, not just us. Pakistan won it at one point, Sri Lanka won it at one point. But nowhere else was it as big an inflection point as it was in the history of cricket, because if you look at India's role in world cricket after 1983, it fundamentally changed. There was a second reason why I so quickly said yes, which was, even though at that time I had not read your book, but as someone, just a few years younger than you, interested in cricket, a general sense of the sport, there was always a feeling that you got a bit of a raw deal. And, all of us know this. Imagine a person who takes the wicket of Keith Stackpole and Ian Chappell in the first test and doesn't play for 6 years after that. So I asked myself, I was curious, why, how, what happened? And I said, okay, if he is inviting me for the book release, that means I have to read the book, which means I probably will figure out what actually happened. So I must say, it was a very good read. I thank both of you. And I got to know very much more after reading the book. And I think comeback king is if anything, an understated word for you. And I think for me, therefore, to be at the release of a book and share the stage with someone like this was really something which meant a lot. But there is a third reason. And the third reason is a kind of a I would say, a personal hobby of mine, which is I like to constantly compare the evolution of cricket in India with the evolution of Indian foreign policy and with India itself. And as I said, and I'll speak about that a little bit. For me, you're the real thing. You're the person who made it happen. So I said, okay, here's a chance for me to see you, to see other living legends. And therefore, my very quick response to you. Now, in my travels, fortunately, I travel a lot, and fortunately, I read in my travels. So when I went through the book, I had some takeaways, and I'd like to share some of that with you. I think the first takeaway from your book was that the world is intensely competitive. It is intensely competitive, but respect is earned. So the same Clive Lloyd in 1976, who did not spare any of you from bodyline bowling, was also the fielding captain who was generous enough to declare that pitch unfit in 1983. And that, in many ways, was respect earned. There is a second takeaway. And that takeaway is a difference which one person can make. Because reading through the memoirs, it's actually a tale of blood and gore. Okay, the amount, I want to look at your hand and look at all those stitches which you have. And the stitches, the bruises, the difficulties, but all of which, reflected a spirit and a temperament. And, those incidents you relate about facing Michael Holding or Jeff Thompson. When some others were talking, why me? Your mindset was, why not me? And so, in a way, to me, you were the wall before there was a wall. And when I look at that period and what it would have meant, facing those people who we heard about that era on radio, because many of us hadn't even got access to a TV then. It's something, we really stand in awe. Now, one person can make a difference, but one person can also serve as a model of an all-rounder. Today we take all-rounders for granted. Even more, a model of a pace bowler. I saw that episode in your first test of what the captain's reaction to you was. And today I think of a Bumrah, and I ask myself, what a way we have come. What a long way we have come. So in many ways, you're a model, you're a pioneer. You started things which others have followed upon. And in many ways, if we are where we are today, I think we must always acknowledge the models and the pioneers. My fourth takeaway was actually on the team spirit. And if I had, not a complaint, but I would say, there were people who played for themselves, and there were people who played for the team. You were obviously the cutting edge of people who played for the team. You had some very interesting stories there, but you were very diplomatic about it. So, I had to scratch my head. One day, maybe I need to ask you, can you exactly tell me who was who in that episode? Because a lot of names are not taken in that book. So those were my takeaways. But I come back again to my point that, my interest as someone, who's very, a very avid follower of cricket. Because to me, the common thing which between your line of work and mine is really the competitiveness. And often people, when they think of foreign policy, I get this question, saying, it must be like a chess game. grand stratagem, you make moves. It's actually not like chess at all. It's far more like cricket. And it is like cricket because, first of all, there are many players. Two, the playing conditions keep varying. Playing at home and playing abroad are very different. You are at the umpire's whims at times. I won't even talk about the cricketing board. There are many formats. And at the end of the day, a lot of it is about psychology. I do exactly what you are doing, trying to outthink the other team, trying to get into their heads. That every time you go out there to do your business, it is actually that competitive spirit that you tell yourself, I have to win this. So I must share with you one, not a secret, but one habit. Many of my colleagues know this. We often, at least I often, use cricketing analogies to describe people. That if I have to tell somebody, saying, take risks, I would say, yaar, wo Sehwag, be a little bit like him. So, cricketers are great analogies to explain to people in very complex situations what they should be like in their behavior. So, in my own system, if I have to tell someone, hang in there, take it on the chin. Whatever happens, stand your ground. You are the analogy I use. Now, I can think of a few other similarities, as I said, between cricket and foreign policy. One of the points today, again, because the world has changed so much, it's very hard to to appreciate how it was in the 60s and 70s. There were big gaps in our playing foreign teams because not everybody had that interest to be, we weren't that big in the sports. One example you give is between our first tour of Australia and our second tour, it was 8 years. Now, interestingly, something like that is happening in foreign policy too. And by the way, in Australia, I must tell you, between prime ministerial tours, sometimes there are 30-year gaps, sometimes 20-year gaps. So this, today an India that the world wants to play with, an India which is frankly good for global business, an India which sets standards, which tests other people's mettle. It happens in my business also. And that to me was interesting. But there were two pieces of advice I saw. One was what your father told you, and I think that applies so much to us, about playing fast bowlers. To me, the entire world is a bunch of fast bowlers coming at me. Move early, play late. This is the advice I would also give to my colleagues. Move early, play late, prepare well, anticipate, read them, and then play. And the other is what you said about Pakistan and the 1982-83 tour. You said you played them better because from the traditional side-on position, you now move to an open-chested position. I couldn't have found a better description for a Pakistan policy than that. So, what I want to say to all of you today, we are here to appreciate, we are here to admire, we are here to applaud. You are a person, I think, really true grit, stout heart, a strong rib cage, never say die, absolutely reliable, selfless. In many ways, a future generational model, not just in cricket. So thank you again for the privilege of having me join you today.
May I now invite our moderator for the day, Buria, to please come and join us on the stage, please? Yeah.
Just walk them out.
That's what.
Whatever, I can start and then it'll depend on them.
Yeah.
It's okay. Good evening, everyone. I think Jimmy Ji will want to sort of join us on stage and Rajender Ji as well, but I don't know how long our External Affairs Minister would have. Okay, first class. Then welcome. Yes, absolutely. Why don't you say a few words and then we'll get going with our conversation.
Namaskar. Thank you, Mr. Jaishankar, for your kind words. इतनी तारीफ तो मेरी ज़िंदगी में मुझे कभी मिली नहीं. जितनी क्लोजली आपने मुझे एनालाइज किया है, मैं समझता हूँ मेरे फादर को छोड़ के किसी ने नहीं किया. टू वेरी ऑनेस्ट. ज़िंदगी एक ऐसी चीज़ है कि हर चीज़ वक्त के साथ होती है. और मदर ने 2 चीज़ें सिखाई मुझे, कि किसी का बुरा मत करना, और डैड ने सिखाया किसी से मत डरना, कि खेलो दम से और वो चीज़ें करो. तो बात जहाँ आपने जैसे जिक्र किया कि आई जस्ट सेंट ए मैसेज एंड इमीडिएटली यू डिसाइडेड. एक्चुअली उससे पहले मेरे दिमाग में काफ़ी चीज़ें आ रही थी कि मैं अभी बुक है, रिलीज़ है, मैं खुद करूँ कि नहीं. मैंने कहा नहीं, कोई ऐसा इंसान आना चाहिए कि जो आके वहाँ पे जस्टिस कर सके बुक के लिए. तो मैं बैठा ऐसे गाने गुनगुना रहा था, तो ऐसे ही दिमाग में आया जय जय शिव शंकर. तो इमीडिएटली मैंने मिस्टर जयशंकर को मेल भेजी, एंड यू वोंट बिलीव इट, विद इन फ्यू आवर्स आई गॉट द रिप्लाई. It was unbelievable. It shows the kind of man Mr. Jaishankar is. और इनकी similarities हैं मेरे साथ काफ़ी. To very honest, ये काम है, मैं भी काम हूँ. ये किसी चीज़ से रिएक्ट नहीं करते जल्दी, मैं भी नहीं करता. और सुनता रहता हूँ, ये भी सुनते रहते हैं. मैंने बहुत बारी देखा टेलीविज़न पे. और 2 वर्ड्स बोलने, मैं भी 2 ही वर्ड्स बोलता हूँ, जैसे मैंने बोले थे. A bunch of, something. So basically, thank you very much to taking time off and coming here. I'm really grateful to you. I know that you're a very busy man. And I'm very happy, very delighted, and it's a very, very memorable day for me. आप यहाँ पे आए और रौनक आई, to be very honest. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
Jimmy Ji, if you could join us on stage, please. And could I also have Rajender Ji on stage? So good evening. Is it working? Yeah, I think so. So what we will do is we will talk for about 30-35 minutes and then open it up for questions. So that's how we will go about it. You know, interestingly, by the way, I've also had the fortune of reading the book, and may I say, it is a fascinating account. I would also want a sequel because his career as selector is not documented in this particular book, so a sequel should happen. If we could get the signatures later, then it's better, because that's the request that's also coming. From the gun salute or the gunshots when you were born to calling a bunch of jokers, it's a fascinating journey. In the middle, obviously, being dropped multiple times, World Cup, achievements, setbacks, mental health issues. You know, incredible career, and you've documented it all. But in all of it, your father is a constant presence, and the influence of your father is a constant presence. Can we start with that? The impact that Lalaji had on all of you, from the grip to being, to ask to practice the stance at home, to telling you at every point in time in your career the impact your father had on you.
Yeah, before I start that, actually, I would like to thank all my friends, those who are here, the people I played with right from school days, college days, first class, international, my teammates. And I'm really happy and grateful that friends and all, they're all here. Yeah, coming back to that question, actually, because, right when we were young, and we were allowed to play cricket 24 hours kind of a thing. And so when we were growing up, I still remember like he would take us to railway stadium. We were working for the railways at that time. That was the initial training. And he was very, like positive man in the sense he was like father, but very regimental actually kind of a thing. He would get up at 5 o'clock and wake us up. Hame to acha laga nahi kabhi. We wanted to sleep and all that. But we had no choice, and because we were not terrified, but we respected him. But it was like whatever he said, it was an ultimate thing for us. We had no other choice. And he said, you only play cricket, then you will become somebody in life. That was his first suggestion to us, or first instruction, you can say. He said कि अगर तुम पढ़ लिख भी गए तो क्या बनोगे? कहीं क्लर्क बन जाओगे, कहीं ऑफिसर बन जाओगे, कहीं से उस टाइम the cricket was different. But he had seen the world because he was with Maharaja Patiala and all that thing, like interacting with royalties and viceroys and all that thing. So he had seen the world. He knew, he was very far-sighted. He was much ahead of time. He knew how to go about it, what to do. And the initial training, I think, was the key for us, which helped me right through my career as such. As we talk about fast bowling, facing fast, we learn at home. It was nothing new. And even if we get hurt, he won't pay any attention. He said, koi baat nahi, sher da puttar hai, ja, baraf la le, you'll be okay. That was kind of a attitude he had. So that really helped us to go all out. And I remember one very interesting incident. I think he had a friend in railways. And he just took me along. He said, chalo, mil ke aate hain. And I went there. So then he said, Lala, bacche kya kar rahe hain? He said, cricket khel rahe hain. What about their padhai? He said, padhai se kya lena hai? Do bari fail ho jayenge to kya ho gaya? Cricket mein to successful ho jayenge na, kuch ban jayenge. So actually, so I'm grateful that I had a father at home, that he was very positive. He had planned our journey, right from childhood. And so I think coming to Bunch of Joker as...
Before you answer that, and I go to Rajender ji, I wanted to set it up with Lala ji, because this surname actually also turned to be counterproductive for you in your career. Did the Amarnath surname come to hurt you as well because of administration, because of what happened with you?
Well, to be honest, it has helped us a lot. Because when we were growing, we had a competition at home. And a competition I'm talking about not amongst the brothers. We had to emulate a great father. So we looked at our father as a role model. And once you have a role model at home, you want to be like him. Later on, we did realize that the surname has its advantages and the disadvantages. Because if you do well, you never got the credit. You are either Lala's son or Mohinder's brother or Surendra's brother. So I think Jimmy had a tough time early on, though he was much better than most of the players who got selected. You're talking about that, I know.
Yeah, and I was about to...
I know you're talking about that. But I can tell you one thing. Having a father with a personality like Papaji, we always called him Papaji, it was amazing. He could create a virtual world for you to learn cricket at home.
Of course. But that same question, was it because you were Lalaji's son that you had to face what you had to face?
Yeah, probably I would say yes, definitely, because he had seen it all in his playing days. He had rough time with BCCI. And probably he was such a strong personality that they couldn't do anything to him. But once he retired and, they knew, they have an opportunity to hit him below the belt. And so for me, actually, the rules were totally different, that talwar hamesha latki rehti thi when I was playing. But I would forget, once I would step onto the field, my focus was totally different. I wanted to do well each and every game. But I knew if I would fail in couple of innings, that's it. I won't be a part of the team probably in the next series, provided we're playing at home. Overseas, you still have an opportunity with there are only 16, 17 members, even if you fail, some of them are there for shopping, some of them they're taking a camera and clicking pictures all over. And only 14 players are there. The competition is not with 17, it's only 13 or 14. So one bad game won't make you a bad player. But I think I had probably his fighting spirit in me. And so he would, at times, I still remember like three of us when we were young and we would play, then he would just call us. He would be sitting on a cane chair, smoking pipe. And then he would call us, acha, haath dikhao, he would say. So I said, we wondering ki why? So he said, it's a powder leke aao, Then he would say, ki acha, linein bahut achhi hain. Tum 6 baar England jaoge, tum 4 baari jaoge, tum 10 baari jaoge, So it was like he was encouraging us from that very young age. And in those days, going to England means ki memo ko dekhne ja rahe hain hum log.
And you've mentioned that he impressed the flight attendant during the tour to Australia in 47-48.
But I think once I would step onto the field, I won't bother. I won't care a damn to anybody. I would just try to give my 100%. My mindset was very like a Fauji, to very honest, ki I'm representing my country. And my duty is to go and perform and give my even blood. If I have to give, I would do that. That's the mindset I had.
Fascinating. And just for the audience, people who haven't followed Lalaji so much, in the 1948-49 period, when Indian cricket's first real controversy was between Lala Amarnath and A.S. de Mello, 23 parts every single day in the Times of India documenting the controversy, which also involved corruption and many other things. So the fighting spirit that Mohinder Amarnath just spoke about, Jimmy G just spoke about, comes from there. Because our External Affairs Minister mentioned Pakistan, and Kapil Paji is here, and you've mentioned very clearly that the umpiring incidents, you've mentioned that Kapil Paji wasn't being able to swing despite his ability and the Pakistanis were doing. So am I right that neutral umpires came in because the Pakistani umpires were cheating, and consistently so?
They were not cheating actually, because what the bowlers would ask if the ball hit the pad, ki khuda kahan hai, they'll say upar hai. They were not cheating at all. And they were favoring their team,
Nicely put.
And I remember, I think there's one incident in this. We were traveling from Multan to Lahore, and Khizr Hayat and Shakur Rana were also in the train. We were coming back by train after a side game. And you know how in Punjabi and Lahori they talk, Minder, they won't say Mohinder, Minder. मैं कही हाँ जी दसो यार Imran Khan, वो तो नहीं छड़ेगा तुहानू. I didn't pay any attention. And Abdul Qadir, तुहानू believe नहीं होएगा. Australian आए, Imran Khan, enna swing, दो गज. I was looking at his face, मैं कहा अच्छा. फिर Abdul Qadir, 2 गज spin. I say, मैं कहा तुसी सानू story सुना रहे हो कि डरा रहे हो. So that's the way they were, and I think cricket was played differently in those days. Definitely ball tampering you're talking. Of course they used to ball tamper. They used to do it. It was obvious before that. Even we had later on neutral umpires, they were still doing it, one incident actually I will never forget. One of the Pakistani players told me, I'm not too sure how true it is. He said, yaar, hame to koi pakad nahi sakta. I said, why? He said, we were touring Australia and we planned it wonderfully. I said, kis tarah, how? And he said, we would bowl short. When you Australians were brilliant player of short bowling, they would hit us, A ball would go to the boundary, and इसे कि वहाँ पे बॉल जाके रुक जाता था, और वहाँ पे ना सीमेंट का ड्रेनेज था, तो सब हम बॉल उठाते तो बॉल को रगड़ देते थे वहाँ पे। तो इससे 10-15 बाउंड्रीज हो जाती थी जब पूरी, तो हमारा बॉल तैयार हो जाता था, एंड वी यूज्ड टू डू रिवर्स, you know, so all sorts of stories, you know, they would do and all that thing. And so it was difficult, but it was very enjoyable to play against Pakistan.
Rajender ji, which is the most difficult chapter that you've kind of written? Because it's got a lot of fascinating things, including it's not easy to write that, say for example, Imran Khan was a better captain than Sunil Gavaskar. And you've written that. Jimmy Paji has written that. And has explained why he is saying so, that Mr. Gavaskar was more focused on his own batting, did not look after the younger players in the team while Imran was doing so. To write this takes a lot of, again, courage, whatever you want to say. Which was the most tough, difficult chapter that you've written?
Well, Amarnaths don't run away from difficulties. We face them. Well, writing about it, definitely we had to think twice before putting it into black and white. But knowing Jimmy, he's very straightforward. He doesn't mince his word. Although we have not named quite a few cricketers, as Dr. Jaishankar says, because you don't want more Amarnath controversies to come up. But talking about Sunil, well, he's one of the great batsmen India has produced. And Imran, probably one of the finest all-rounders of that period. The quality which Imran had, which Jimmy has very clearly written, is that he could get the entire team the way he wanted them to perform. He was a Pied Piper of Pakistan team. He could really make them do what he really wanted them to do. Sunil was focused on his batting, no doubt. Because Sunil's philosophy was probably that if you have reached the top level, you should know how to get out of the situation. He said, I have no time for all that. You are here because you have worked hard to reach here. So to get out of the situation, a tight situation, well, you have to find your own way. I am not going to waste your time.
Because 83 has to be discussed. Kapil Paji is here, Mr. Jaishankar, Dr. Jaishankar mentioned 83, and of course, semi-final, final, Jimmy Paji. You have written that when you were in England at that point in time, team selection happened, you did not even get to know it from the BCCI. A friend of yours told you. And when the players, there was nothing even in the press about the Indian team. Can you set that up for us? Because there was absolutely nothing from our standpoint to give that team the importance that it deserved at that point.
Don't forget, actually, at that time, probably everybody thought we were not good enough in one-day cricket. And if you look at the performance in 75, we didn't do anything. 79, it was no different. It was, you know, situation was something like that, like we were not there to play one-day cricket. We were only there to play test series. And the manager was missing, you know, from the team. He's on his official work, you know, somewhere else. So I think the attention was not paid till 79, but 83 probably things were not really great. We are not really won too many matches overseas or in one-day cricket. But I thought the preparation for 83 team was good. And when it came to the announcement of the team, as probably in a movie also you must have seen in 83, that there were no farewell, there were no camp for the team. And usually it happens, you know, you get together for a week and then you leave. As a team, nothing was done at that time. Probably they thought, you know, like, again, ye bhi waisa hi hoga jaise pehle hua tha. So they were not expecting miracle to happen at that time. But I think the mindset of the player was different. I think the credit, I would say, would go to the selection committee also, because those who were involved in 83, I think Bishan was there, Chandu was there, Mr. Bode was there, Bishan Paji was there. So I think probably they thought it differently. And of course, Kapil was the captain, and then he selected the team along with them. So, but that time, like, it was not shocking. I think it was very usual for me not to hear anything, my name anywhere, you know, like, and all that thing. And so probably they thought it was not important to inform. I was the vice captain of the team. They should have, like there should have been a protocol and all that thing. But in my case, it has never been like that, right through my career.
You mentioned the word respect and spirit. There's a beautiful line in the book where Jimmy Paji writes that during the photo op for the 1983 team during the World Cup, he was supposed to stand just next to Kapil Paji as vice captain. He asked Mr. Gavaskar to stand there to give him the respect that he deserves in Indian cricket. Spirit. So that's beautifully mentioned. But tell me, before I go to Rajender ji again, you're not bowled, and all of a sudden you get to bowl, and then semi-final, final. Just tell us a little bit more.
Nothing. I think when we reached the semi-finals, we knew how good we were. And so we were not really worried facing England, Australia, or any other team, because we had won most of the matches against strong sides. We lost some, we won some. And so like the situation came, I think, when Kapil asked me to bowl, I thought, okay, fine, probably 1-2 overs, like before lunch and all that. And in those days, as things were different, there was a lunch break, there was a tea break, and 60 overs one-day cricket. And when I got the wicket, so naturally it was just a crucial wicket of Gar before the lunch break. So I thought we were happy with the performance. We went back to the dressing room and had lunch and all that. So I thought again, I didn't expect to bowl, to be very honest, after that. But all thanks to Caps, I think his mindset or his planning, he thought it differently. And when he threw the ball back to me, I was surprised. I said, yaar, ye kya ho gaya kamal yahan pe? So he said, no, carry on, Jimmy. And I carried on from one end, then Kirti came from the other end and all that thing. So I think we bowled that crucial number of overs, which fetched us a lot of wickets, and we contained them and kept the pressure on England. But again, I think whatever you do, I never believe in I word. I think it's always we. When we do something, we do it as a team, and we perform as a team. And I still maintain cricket is an individual game and becomes a team game when everybody performs.
So just to say it, 24 overs between them for 55 runs and 4 wickets, 2 to him, 1 to Kirti Azad, Ian Botham, and 1 run out, set it up for India in that crucial semi-final. Rajender ji, the point that I want to come to, and you mentioned this in the book, that as India was winning, more and more Indian people were coming. The tricolour was being seen. Now we see it everywhere. Obviously, the Indian team gets more support now. But I could see the idea of India coming together as that 83 team was making its mark in England. The larger India story, which is the backdrop of this book, according to me, was kind of forming. Your thoughts?
Well, if you go through the earlier World Cups, that 75 and 79, you will realize reading it that they all went for a holiday. They didn't go there to win the World Cup. But once the team started performing better, although they lost a couple of games early on, but once they started winning, and abroad, every penny matters. You have to really work hard to earn that money. And to ask the Indian diaspora to pay those tickets for the tickets which are quite expensive, they were not willing because the team was losing earlier on. But once the team started winning, that feeling of nationalism started building up, not only amongst the Indian team, but all the Indians living in England. And once you see a tricolour, you get goosebumps. I'm still getting it when talking about the tricolour. I feel it. Sir, I really feel it when I talk about Indian tricolour. My father was very patriotic. My mother was very patriotic. I'll tell you an incident about my mom. During the revolutionary period, the revolutionaries used to come to my Nana's home for donation. They wanted money, they didn't have money to buy arms or anything they needed. So once these revolutionaries came over, my mom was very small, she always related this incident to me. So my Nanaji asked him, how much you need? He says, whatever सेठ जी आप दे सकते हो. He opened, उस ज़माने में तिजोरी होती थी घर में. He gave them the key. He said, जितना चाहिए निकाल लो. So while they took out money, my mother was very small. She walked into the room and she saw these revolutionaries with a bundle of notes. But Keshwar Dutt, आपने तो उनका नाम सुना ही होगा, he was there. So he said, कौन है? तो उन्होंने बोला मेरी बेटी है, घबराने की बात नहीं. इसे बता देगी. इसे नहीं बताएगी. तो my mom asked, ये कौन है? तो उन्होंने बोला बेटा ये आपके भाई हैं. He says मैंने तो कभी राखी पे देखा ही नहीं, because my mom never had a brother. He said मैंने तो कभी देखा ही नहीं. He said मेरे भाई हैं तो मैं इनको राखी बांध दूंगी. उन्होंने कहा ठीक है. She went to the kitchen, got a plate, got a knife, cut a thumb, खून से टिका लगाया कि आज से ये मेरे भाई हैं. So that is the family we belong to. If Jimmy talks about the spirit when he sees the tricolor or he walks in to play cricket, that is thanks to our upbringing.
Wow. As an extension to that, Jimmy Baji, you mentioned Michael Holding being the fastest, bowling 100 plus at that point in time, no speed gun, no protective equipment at that point again. Tell me, I mean, some people were afraid, and we know, you've not mentioned names, but how was it? I mean, you at no point in time did it sort of come to you, because you had the experience of knowing 62, you of course knew the Norrie contractor story, you knew about Charlie Griffith and all of it, but were you never afraid? And that's what I want to know.
No, I think when you represent India, I think it's a proud moment for you. And because very few lucky people get an opportunity and honor to do that, to represent the country. And honestly, I never flinched away from anything like that. It never came into my mind कि वो क्या करने वाला है, क्या होगा. So I would take things at once and at a time. I still believe I live for today, and I thought कि like today has to be the best performance, and that's the way I would take my life. And never thought I would get hit. I would shy away from bowling and all that. I wouldn't do that. I said, "Jo dar gaya, wo mar gaya," kind of a thing, you know, like and all that thing. So basically, like when you're there, you know the things are tough, and you plan it. It's like a game of chess. You read the mind of the bowler, what he's going to do next. To be very honest, and because if you have played certain strokes and you have hit him a boundary of the back foot or front foot, you know what to expect next from him. And I remember like when we were kids, the first lesson we got from Dad, he said, if you want to be a successful international player, you have to be good player of fast bowling, and you have to be good. Either he said the 3 strokes, if you can master 1 or 2, if you can master 3, you will be Don Bradman. If you master 1 or 2, you'll be a very successful player. So there were few strokes I won't be able to play. So even if there were juicy boundaries coming from those strokes, I would neglect actually. So it's all about discipline. It's all about mindset. And you know your strength, you read the opponents, what is going to do next. I still remember like Michael Holding, probably the fastest I've ever faced. Malcolm Marshall. He was lethal, you know, like because being a short guy compared to Michael, the ball would skid and even come at faster than Michael at times. And so like at times, you know, like if you would hit him a boundary, then you know what to expect. He would just go back to his run up and he would pull his trouser up. So you have to be very observant to see what the guy is going to do. You know what to expect next. So that means it's going to be a bounce or a short ball. So you prepare yourself well in advance. As Mr. Jaishankar just mentioned, like that you move early and play it late. That means you have more time to decide what shot or what you're going to do next. So the planning is the key. You have to be one up to the opponents. You have to be observant. कि आपको देखना है क्यों क्या. It's not only bat and ball. You have to see everything. Even when you're in the dressing room, sitting out, you see how the things are happening in the middle. So when you're so observant, you don't make mistakes.
Just to set it up again, 1976, Clive Lloyd unleashed the bodyline theory on us. And even Sir Donald, in 1932, from an average of 99.94, his average had fallen to 56 against Harold Larwood. So that was Douglas Jardine and that whole bodyline period against Sir Donald. So 99 to 56. That's how hard these guys had to go through. Last few questions, and I will open it up, 7-8 minutes more. Rajenderji, you were writing this as a brother, having sort of known him the best. At any point in time, was there something that you thought, no, this shouldn't be said, or this is his book? Because when we write and you try to put yourself in someone else's shoes, this is always a challenge. No, I want this more. Like he was asking for names, for example. No, maybe we could give this. We can't. Any kind of such memories that you wanted this? Maybe he could have said it a little bit more.
Well, there is never end to writing. But there comes a time when you have to decide, do you want the book to be a fiction? No. I never wanted the book to be a fiction. It has come the way he has played cricket, the way he has lived, and the way he continues to live.
Jimmy Baji, I can't not ask you, bunch of jokers. Where did that come from? How did you say it? Courage, everything. Please.
नहीं जी, मुझे बड़ी मेहनत करनी पड़ी कि अंग्रेजी में बोलना था.
आप ये बता तो दीजिए.
नहीं, I think I had enough by that time, like when you have done well and you're doing well, you're playing well, and suddenly you don't see your name there. And there has to be protocol, like when you have already played for good 17, 18, 19 years of international cricket. I think it's the duty of the selection committee to come and inform you well in advance whether they are resting you or whether they have dropped you. And so I didn't like the way I was dropped. And I didn't expect it to be. I didn't expect to be out of the team at that time because I had done well in Asia Cup, in Dhaka and all that. So I automatically, see, when your captain having and discussing team with you for the test match and the numbers are discussed and after a few days they're going to announce the team, so you don't bother about it. Okay, captain is discussing team with me. I've done it well. And we won the World Cup, I won the Asia Cup. And then suddenly somebody comes and tell you you're not there. So how would you feel? Actually, it was something like had stabbed me in the back. I felt like that. So actually, then of course I blamed the selection committee to leave me out also. So it was an outburst. I said, I had enough. I did speak to my dad. I said, Dad, Papa ji, I said, koi baat nahi, tu jo karna hai tu kar. He was with me. So I didn't need anybody else, and I spoke the truth, to be very honest. मैंने कोई गलत बात नहीं की. Selection committee देखो, कोई international experience नहीं आधे selectors को, और कोई जो chairman है उसको कभी खेला नहीं international cricket, उसको क्या पता? And he's always, like from one region, he's promoting people from that region only. So I didn't like the idea. I'm not the guy who believe in likes and dislikes. I never believed कि कौन कहाँ से किस state से है, कहाँ से खेलता है. We were playing for India. We were all Indians representing the country. So I didn't like it. I just said कि जो मुझे ठीक लगा उस time, and मैंने उनको famous कर दिया था थोड़ा actually, थोड़ा.
Last question before I open it up. These days हम लोग mental health के बारे में बहुत कुछ बात करते हैं. अभी athletes गेम से टाइम ले लेते हैं, मेंटल हेल्थ के बारे में इतना कॉन्शियसनेस है, अच्छा भी है, स्पोर्ट्स साइंस के बारे में बात करते हैं. बट मैं जब आपका किताब पढ़ रहा था जिमी पाजी, मैं ये सोच रहा था एट दैट पॉइंट इन टाइम देयर वाज नो कॉन्शियसनेस ऑफ मेंटल हेल्थ. नोबडी रियली न्यू वेदर व्हाट वाज गोइंग थ्रू योर माइंड, वेदर यू वर डिप्रेस्ड, हाउ यू वर डीलिंग विद इट. देयर वाज नो एक्सटर्नल हेल्प, नो साइकोलॉजी. हाउ वुड यू डील विद एडवर्सिटी? आई मीन, डिड स्पोर्ट टीच यू हाउ टू लूज? Did sport kind of make you stronger and more resilient in that way? Because yes, it is very easy to say comeback king, but the backstory of being comeback king is the hardest story of all. How did you deal with adversity, Jimmy Pach?
Actually, see, you have your own mindset. I don't think you need people to train you and tell you what is right, what is wrong. When you're playing at this level, when you're representing the country, you know your job, you know how good you are and where you're making mistakes. And so my things were very simple, like कि सोचना नहीं है ज़्यादा. पिछला जो गुजर गया वो वापस नहीं आने वाला, आगे का पता नहीं. तो वर्क आज जो है that is important. That was my mindset right from childhood. I live for that moment. I still do that. तो उसके लिए बेसिक कंडीशनिंग क्या, इमेजिन like 10 people comes and with computer sitting over there telling अच्छा ये करना है, वो करना है, ऐसे करना है, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. But once you go in, you're on your own, you're fighting your own battle. Nobody can help you over there. You can't think who's your girlfriend, who's your wife, who's your mother and all that, like the people you're going to meet that evening. Because what you're concentrating at that time is on the red cherry. If you're a batter, कि मुझे ये बॉल को कैसे खेलना और क्या करना है. You have to give your best shot at that time. Nobody can help you. As I said, cricket is an individual game. And you have to perform and you have to be consistent. See, people, those who play for a longer period of time, why they play? Because the mindset is different to others. Because they never think about their past performance. They just think there's an opportunity, they have to be consistent. So you have to be consistent. You don't need many people to come and tell you what you should be doing at this level. So you just go and perform and prove people wrong, those who have dropped you, that you're good enough for that day, or even we are good enough earlier also.
On that note, let's try and open it up for questions, and kindly introduce yourselves if we can get one microphone into the audience. Yes. Can you take the microphone, sir?
I'm a psychologist, and I've just been given a second PhD by UNESCO. And I would like to answer that for Jimmy. I do not know if Jimmy considers us close enough to answer this question. Jimmy did not have existential regret. That's what I have realized, because we've spent a lot of time with him. He's a godfather to my daughter. He motivated her to become a judge advocate general in the Indian Army. Jimmy did not have existential regret, which means Jimmy never looked back at the finitude of past choices or the decisions that he made, whether wholeheartedly or subconsciously. So Jimmy never hit existential anxiety, and he never hit existential guilt. And that's the reason he was able to bounce back. And there's another thing, which I realized very early on, because Jimmy was introduced to me by my wife. My wife is much more prominent than I am. She's giving an interview outside to NewsX, which I should be giving as a psychologist, on the suicide of an airline pilot. But the most important thing about Jimmy is that Jimmy realized 4 things which he spoke to me about once in Goa. He didn't articulate it in that way, but Jimmy realized the 4 existential givens of life. And that
Sir, I would
freedom.
take some questions, please.
Last.
I've heard you. I'll take some questions, and we can have this comment during signing session.
Just one line.
Sir, I'll use my moderator's discretion. I'll take it later. Can I have some questions, please? Yes.
Hi, sir. First of all, it's a privilege and honor to meet you. I'm here. My name is Kanav. I'm the founder of Cantel Entertainment. So I want to ask you a question. Though I was very small then when India won the World Cup in 1983. Do you think cricket would have still been a religion if we had not won the World Cup in 1983 in India?
I think you need a beginning somewhere. And when some unexpected thing happens, I think you cherish it more, you enjoy it more. So this is what exactly happened. I think definitely it changed the whole scene in Indian cricket in 1983, because we started believing in ourselves. And before that, I think when we would play away and with other teams, players would think and thought that opponents were always better. But definitely that changed the mindset of the Indians.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Sir, we've had 2 successful coaches back to back, Ravi Shastri and Rahul Dravid. Your opinion on both of them? Some like.
See, captain coach is only as good as his team.
More questions? Yes? The gentleman there. Second row.
Sir, still why not? I think more and more countries are coming into the cricket, just like football and all. Why still that lacuna or gap? I don't know why does it exist. Still only 10 test cricket teams are there. Why not more and more countries are coming into this?
नहीं बहुत आ रही हैं जी अभी तो अगर आप देखें छोटी छोटी कंट्रीज़ बहुत आ रही हैं एंड सो उसके लिए बिकॉज क्रिकेट प्रमोट कर रहे हैं सो आई थिंक इस शॉर्टर वर्जन विल बी मोर आई थिंक प्रोमिनेंट
Just so you know, 109 countries play the sport. 109. If you had gone to Brazil and said India plays football, you would have had the same answer. 109 registered countries under the ICC at the moment will soon become more. Just like 200 people play football.
Borja, can I just make a quick point there? We've supported Afghanistan. You've seen the results which happened. They had their home team. We are now supporting Nepal in a very big way. And because cricket will be an Olympic sport from 28, one of the things we are doing as part actually of our international relations is actually to support more teams coming up to that standard.
So that's soft power. Further questions? That side, please. Two questions there. Yeah. Yes, sir.
My question is, as Dr. Jaishankar mentioned, 83 was the inflection point. Still, why do you think it took us 28 years to win another World Cup?
It's not that they didn't want to win, but it didn't happen actually. So
Okay. The other one. Yes, sir.
Hi, very good evening to all. Sir, I have two questions. Jimmy is your home name or what?
जी मेरे पापा जी ने मेरे को नाम दिया था ये
Okay.
बिकॉज़ हम 3 ब्रदर हैं मैं जेम हूँ ये जॉन है बड़ा वाला टॉम है
Oh, sir, second question, sir.
किताब में है आप पढ़ लीजिएगा
Sir, second
किताब में ये
question.
है
Second question is, we heard about that cricket is going to be listed in Olympic games now. So why it has taken so much of time to include in Olympics?
आई थिंक ये ओलंपिक एसोसिएशन से पूछिए आप
By the way, 1900 में क्रिकेट ओलंपिक्स में था just so you know. Paris, yeah. Further questions? Yes. That little, yeah. Anju, oh, go for it.
सर मुबारक हो सर आपने हर क्षेत्र में कार्य करा है और अच्छा भी करा है आई मीन यू बीन फेयरलेस इन एवरी फील्ड विच दैट फील्ड इन योर एंटायर करियर विच यू विल से दैट यू एंजॉयड द मोस्ट
मैं तो हर चीज़ ही इंजॉय करता हूँ जी लाइफ में
सर मैंने इसलिए हर चीज़ में से एक ही चीज़ पूछी है पॉइंटेड
नहीं जी क्रिकेट डेफिनेटली क्रिकेट ही इंजॉय किया लाइफ पर और जो भी आज मैं जो कुछ हूँ वो क्रिकेट करके हूँ
राजेंद्र सर आप भी कुछ बोलना चाह रहे थे
नहीं मैं बताना चाह रहा हूँ क्रिकेटर बनाने के पीछे मेरा बहुत बड़ा हाथ है
अच्छा
अगर आप किताब पढ़ेंगे वो भी आपको मालूम पड़ जाएगा ये तो फिल्म एक्टर बनना चाहते थे ये तो 18 बारी इन्होंने संपूर्ण रामायण पिक्चर देखी ये तो मैंने शिकायत कर दी उनकी पिटाई हुई फिर ये करेक्टर बने
जब यश आउट हो गए थे और मदन लाल ने शैंपेन का बॉटल खोल दिया आप दिमाग में क्या सोच रहे थे
सेमीफाइनल की बात कर रहे हैं
हाँ
नहीं मैं तो तब यश तो अंदर खेल रहा था मैं तो आउट हो चुका था तब और तब हमें मालूम था कि हम मैच जीतने ही वाले हैं तो वो होता है ना एक खुशी होती है और एक अच्छा है ये भी सबसे बड़ी बात थी कि हम फाइनल में जाने वाले थे और हमने उस टीम को मात दी थी जो समझती थी कि वो हमें हमेशा हरा सकते हैं हम उनसे नहीं जीत सकते तो वो भी एक खुशी थी और जब टीम मिलके अच्छा करती है तो आप तो क्या है आप हिमालय पर्वत भी जीत सकते हैं
Thank you to you as well. More questions? Yes, there's a gentleman there. Yes, sir, I'll come to you.
Hello, good evening, sir. Hi. Sir, you have talked about superstition in, I listened to one of your interviews, they talked about superstition, and it is quite popular that you use the red handkerchief during the World Cup matches. Is there any other superstition that you followed in your cricketing journey?
नहीं जी, बस वही था, उसका रीज़न था कि मेरे डैड भी रखा करते थे अपने प्लेइंग डेज़ में रुमाल रेड कलर का, तो मैं उनके जैसा तो प्लेयर नहीं था, मैं उनकी बहुत स्टोरी सुनी, बहुत ग्रेट प्लेयर थे, तो मैं उनको एमुलेट करने की कोशिश करता था कि मैं कौन सी चीज़ है जो मैं अपने फादर से सीख सकता हूँ, ले सकता हूँ। और मैंने कहा वो लाल रुमाल है, और उसका लाल रुमाल का करिश्मा चलता रहा जी, और ये क्रिकेट से मोहब्बत चलती रही, और वो सफलताएं मिलती रही, और परफॉर्मेंस चलती रही, और मैं धन्यवाद हूँ उस लाल रुमाल का भी।
थैंक यू सो मच सर।
Good evening, Jimmy. I'm Vishi Sinha. I'm a book reader by passion and cyber law expert by profession. And I'm a big fan of yours since my childhood days. So my question is related to 1983. It was the year when you scored 1,000 runs by 3rd of May. And I believe it is still a record that nobody in the world has made 1,000 runs as early as 3rd of May. And then it followed by the superlative performance in semi-final and final of 83 World Cups. You are the main reason behind that memorable victory. And then a few months later, West Indies toured India, and that was a forgettable series for you. And people used to call you Mr. Amarnath. So from one position when you are at the top of the world, and then that low position. So how to handle that kind of situation in life? That is my question.
नहीं, मैंने कभी सोचा ही नहीं कि मैंने इतना हासिल किया. मैं ऐसा सेट कि I used to just live for the day. And so every game was important for me, whether I had done it good or done it badly. So when I was low, even then I had kept my smile. I never complained. So that kept me going actually. So I think in life, what is important, khani to do hi roti hai. Why worry?
Last few questions, and before I end, I'll request Jimmy Paji to either sing us a song, or as Mr. Puri said, recite a shairi. Okay, so he writes. So we will get that. That's our finale. And then both of them will sign books. So just so you know, they will sign them here. So somebody from HarperCollins will coordinate that, and we will get our signings on way. Last couple of questions, please. Yes, sir.
My name is Dr. Yash Gulati. I have taken the moderator's permission to share an experience other than ask a question. I'll be very short. I remember in 1986 or 87, Mohinder came to me when I was working in the Medical Center Parliament House Annex. This will tell you what a grit he had. He had a fracture in his right hand index finger, which is his batting hand. And he asked me, Yash, tell me, should I go and bat or not? I said, Mohinder, I will say you go and bat if you promise me one thing. He said, what? I said, you promise me that you'll score a century. I said, I'll try. And he scored a century. Thank you for that.
Any further questions? Kapil bhai, aap to pooch lo ek. Microphone to unko de dijiye. Please, please.
No, I think both said they haven't given full name. I want to see Fearless 2, where he put everybody's name there. That will be very interesting in life.
Contract de dijiye abhi. Come on.
Yeah, Fearless 2. I like to read that also.
No, it will be there very soon, Caps.
With all the names?
Why not?
Okay. Yes.
आपने वर्ल्ड कप जीतने के बाद क्या क्या किया था, मतलब आपको क्या क्या करने का मन था, और आपके पापा ने आपको क्या क्या कहा था वर्ल्ड कप जीतने के बाद?
वर्ल्ड कप जीत लिया हमने सोच लिया हमने दुनिया जीत ली, क्योंकि उससे कोई बड़ी चीज़ हमारे लिए नहीं थी. अब भूख प्यास सब भूल गए हम कि हमने कुछ देश के लिए यहाँ पे हासिल किया. सबसे पहली जो सोच मेरे मन में आई थी वो ये आई थी. और पापा जी ने बहुत शाबाशी दी और कहा कि बेटा मुझे आप पे नाज है.
Jimmy Paji, either recite something for us or sing something for us or whatever you want. It's your day.
Do you still have time? Okay. All right. Okay. ठीक है जी. मेरे ये बहुत पुराने दोस्त आए हैं, फैमिली मेम्बर्स आए हैं, शायद मैं उनको मिलता नहीं हूँ रोज़, तो पहले मैं एक शेर कर देता हूँ, फिर एक पंजाबी की 2 लाइनें भी गा दूँगा. ये लाज़मी नहीं कि मैं तुम्हें अपनी आँखों से देखूं, ये लाज़मी नहीं कि मैं तुम्हें अपनी आँखों से देखूं, तुम्हारा ख्याल आना तुम्हारे दीदार से कम नहीं। मैं मिलता नहीं उनको रोज़, बट याद तो रहते हैं। लो जी फिर। पीड़ा नू मैं सीड़े लावा, फिर भी हसदी जावा, तुप्पां दे नाल लड़ लड़ के मैं लबियां अपड़ियां छावा, दुख भी अपने सुख भी अपने, मैं ते बस ऐ जाना, सब नू समझ के की करना है, दिल नू ऐ समझावा, तू झूम 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 झूम, मैं दीवानी कुछ ना जाना, मस्त हो के गावा, दुनिया राजी करके कमले, फिर भी चैन ना आना, सारी खुशियां मिल जावन ते पिछे की रह जाना, सब नू समझ के की करना है, दिल नू ऐ समझावा, तू झूम 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 झूम।
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a standing applause for Mohinder Amarnath? Books here, so anyone who wants to get their book signed and get a photograph taken, kindly queue up, and my colleagues from HarperCollins will take it over from here on. I think it's here.
How are you?
Thank you.